Welcome back to the Joseph Kryszyn podcast. I appreciate you all for joining me again. I forget what episode this is, but I haven't been back in a while. These things are so rare for me to speak. But no, I appreciate whoever is consistently listening to these podcasts. I'm just going to read a section of my book, Economy versus Policy for the Individual, today. I'm speaking on this in particular during this, I guess you could say, geopolitical climate that we're in, the economic, I guess you could say, business cycles, all this economic jargon that I'm going to avoid in this podcast. I'm gonna give it to you all straight, what I think about it and how we can fit into it. Because let's be real, it gets frustrating when you're trying to, I don't know, be frugal, save, potentially invest, but then you see all these things going on in the world, and it's just noise. It's just noise. I mean, you see a rising gold price. You see them trying to lower interest rates, the debasement of the currency. You see rising unemployment and rising inflation at the same time, and then potential stagflation in the economy. It's just, yeah, it's meaningless. I mean, like, where do you put your hope, really? I mean, there's really is no hope on this earth, but I think there's some things that we can do if we're going to live frugally and save every penny, or do our can to get out of debt and raise our net worth. There's actually things we can do. Um, I felt like I was helpless at some point in time when I was like having to, you know, I guess pull out funds or borrow money when I was like, in the when it was really a tough time for me. But I realized that the economy wasn't even that bad for me. You think like things are all relative, like if I'm doing bad, everybody else is doing bad. But really, that was just a but I was making poor financial decisions, and I had to pay the penalty for that. But thanks to God that we go through hardship, because I'm starting to realize that you aren't the person you are today if it's not for hardship. Actually, if like some you see some people with money, it just seems like they don't know how to act. But then other people that they built their wealth of they've had to really lead a company, be leaders. I mean, these people are the smartest people around, but really it boils down to economy for the individual. This is why I'm speaking on this. We could blame the world for all of our problems. We could say, is this going on in the Middle East? We could say we could blame the government, the current administration in power, but at the end of the day, we don't want to blame anybody. We want to take control of our money and do our very best, right, with what we have, right? So let's not make excuses. So I'll dive in. I would just like to start off with a quote by Oscar Wilde. It's one of my favorite quotes by him. I can resist everything except temptation. I'm gonna read that one more time. Oscar Wilde, he said, I can resist everything except temptation. Ain't that the truth? So economy versus policy for the individual. And I read, what is your purpose? Does it not change over time along with our desires? It's no secret that as we mature, our desires mature. But that does not dismiss the implicit structure of the system's demand for participants. Actually, as we mature, we become more active participants, progressing from mere consumers as children to producers as adults. Understanding economy for the individual, or the function and placement of the individual in the economy, is futile to understand. Why must we live so indifferent to what binds us to society? Actually, we need each other. Thankfully, I don't have to go hunt in the morning for my food. The butcher down the street provides the necessary protein that I simply exchange paper currency for. And what about the wad of services that I neither toil nor sow to reap and enjoy, yet that are provided by others through the incentives of capitalism? Since this be so, it proved useful for one to understand individually how he allocates scarce resources that have alternative uses. So, what financial advisors often say first to their clients is, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you do is to stop digging, right? Of course, truly not paying off bad debt is the worst allocation of scarce resources, right? That resource being one's paycheck, of course. It's like investing in the stock market today to receive an average return of 7% while being charged 30% in interest on a credit card balance, for example. One should pay off debt, save, then invest in that order. Yet, as most of the middle class society obviously agrees, it is more convenient to splurge, pay bills, and then save or invest the remaining funds. As the lazy person works the hardest, the poor person pays the most. One of the saddest and most overlooked aspects is that the poor pay a premium for being poor, such as the high cost of insurance in neighborhoods with high crime rates. Another basic example is those with poor credit scores being charged higher interest rates on borrowing. Payday loans, one of the most expensive forms of borrowing, are quick financial escapes for people living paycheck to paycheck. There are observable patterns or behaviors in pricing, often driven by psychological, market dynamics, or external factors, where prices behave in ways that aren't always strictly rational, and yet seemingly how people respond to such prices. Prices influence behavior nonetheless. There are two distinctively different approaches when it comes to economics for the individual. First, the pessimist victim, and second, the optimist accountant. Very, very particular. I'm gonna say it one more time. You're either a pessimist victim or you're an optimist accountant, meaning accounting for yourself, right? Accountant meaning he holds himself accountable or hires in an effort to hold himself accountable for the poor financial decisions made even today or in his past. But the former only complains and blames politics for his misfortune. The broke are the loudest in the room, and they, for some reason, have many opinions but find it difficult to listen to wisdom. Wisdom is a foolish earned to a fool. Even a fool is counted wise once he listens. Once complete, we see that they've been lying through their teeth the entire time, or at least every time they stand at the podium to address the nation. Politicians, I mean. Judgment upon an individual's circumstance is always from a biased point of view. There is and always will be the battle at the forefront of one's mind between what he feels and what he knows, or what should be done and what is most convenient. That's human nature, is it not? Though one may economize in his own life, he cannot escape policy. The purpose of policy is to assist one's pursuit of a greater economy. In defense of the individual, especially one with a finite amount of time, money, and energy, one may feel incompetent when it comes to making real change in the realm of politics. Hence, elected officials who represent the people should be voted through with concern for the future, yet are completely overlooked due to promises made before their tenure in office. We will not make excuses and blame the president, nor the cabinet, nor the Federal Reserve Bank, though it's not federal, nor has reserves and it's not a bank. And we most definitely won't complain about our situations that we can actively pursue to improve. Excuse me. There is a clear resolution every man must make to resolve without fail. Resolve to perform what you ought. Perform without fail what you resolve. Man needn't seek the outside world for validation in this matter. Fear comes in subtle forms, but the most obvious is a man declaring his plans to a lack of belief in their fulfillment. We consistently tell others our plans, which invites opinions prematurely, and seek the help of others who are incompetent in such matters. It would be like going to the broker. Oh, excuse me, it would be like going to the baker instead of the blacksmith to fix our sword. Since the beginning of constitutional governance, man has always been at odds with the socialist dilemmas of his time and his seeds to not only eat, but to thrive and prosper. We succumb to psychological pressures to meet the demands of the month, such as expenses, while at the same time chasing a life few of us can seldom afford. We seek what would destroy us, such as a nice vehicle with a good woman by our side. Whatever characteristic you defined as good once reading the previous sentence determines your level of anxiety when achieving that said lifestyle. There is a clear goal in each of our minds, and whether it is good or bad, we will surely meet that end, whether we are conscious of it or not. The same sun rose upon our fathers, grandfathers, and great grandfathers, so how are we indifferent to the inborn desire to succeed? They too walked in the flesh with the changing time, thanking God for such benevolence upon mankind, yet all too eager to call upon his grace and mercy when times were hard. Oh, and times are hard. Hard times are coming. It will soon be clear who understands economics versus who relies on policy. I thank you all for listening to this section of this podcast. Again, this book is not complete. Economy versus policy. I'm sorry, this is just a section. The book is called Intellectual Stimulation. I believe I'll be finished with the book by man, if we're even still here on the earth, by sometime next year. I believe May 2027, I should be done with the book. But I thank you all for coming for another Joseph Kryszyn podcast. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a very blessed day. Bye bye.